My name is Nick. I'm 30 years old, and I live just outside of Columbus, Ohio, in a quiet residential neighborhood, not too fancy, not too run down. I work for myself doing freelance electrical and Wi-Fi installations. Nothing glamorous, but it pays the bills and keeps my schedule flexible. Some weeks, I'm up to my neck in work. Other weeks, I'm praying for one more client just to cover rent. You get used to it. This whole story started on a Tuesday. I had just wrapped up a job at a dental office and had one more client for the day, a simple home Wi-Fi setup in a private house across town. I punched the address into my phone and drove over. The place was nice, two-story house, clean yard, white shutters, one of those welcome mats out front. I double-checked the address and rang the doorbell. A few seconds later, the door opened, and there she was. She looked not what I expected, maybe late 40s, shoulder-length hair, light makeup, wearing jeans and a loose button-down shirt. She had this calm, confident energy like she wasn't easily surprised. She looked me up and down and then said, "Dry as hell, what they deliver internet to the door now." I blinked, totally thrown off. "Oh, I'm here to install Wi-Fi. Got a service call for this address." She crossed her arms with a slight smirk. "Nope, no one called for that here." I pulled up the request form on my phone, then realized I'd entered the wrong house number. Right street, wrong number. "Oh man, I'm so sorry," I said. "My fault. I'll get out of your hair." She laughed softly. "No harm done. You're already here, and my upstairs Wi-Fi has been dropping like crazy for months. Since you are clearly a professional," she gestured to my tool bag, "why don't you come in and take a look?" I hesitated. I mean, it wasn't an official job, but I didn't have anything else lined up, and something about her tone, it wasn't flirtatious or pushy. It was just matter of fact, like she decided I was staying and that was that. So I stepped in. The place was stylish, but lived in clean lines, warm colors, plants in the corners, artwork on the walls. I followed her up to the second floor, checked the router placement, found a few things I could tweak, basic stuff, moved the router off the floor, adjusted the channel settings, reran the signal, test. Worked better instantly. "You know your stuff," she said, watching me from the doorway. "Yeah, I've done this a lot. And honestly, your setup's not bad, just needed a few nudges." She nodded and asked if I wanted water. I said, "Sure." We ended up sitting at her kitchen island. One glass of water turned into an hour-long conversation. I don't even remember how we got from routers to talking about life, but it flowed. Her name was Claire, 47. She worked in interior design, ran her own small team, mostly high-end home projects and boutique hotels. Divorced 10 years, no kids, didn't date much. "Too busy," she said. I told her about my business, how I got into it after getting laid off from a big telecom company, how I liked working alone, how it's nice fixing things people rely on every day. She seemed genuinely interested, not just nodding to be polite. There was something really grounded about her. She didn't overshare, didn't ask weird questions, but when she listened, I mean really listened, you felt it. After a while, I realized I was still holding my water bottle and hadn't even touched it in 20 minutes. I stood up. "I should go. Got the actual job. I was supposed to be at, 2 houses down." She chuckled. "Tell them I warmed you up at the door." I paused. Thanks for not slamming the door in my face when a strange guy with tools showed up out of nowhere. She tilted her head a little. "You're welcome. Not every day someone rings my bell by mistake and ends up being decent company." I smiled, said goodbye, and walked away. But the weird part for the rest of the evening, while I was under someone else's desk fiddling with tangled Ethernet cables, I kept thinking about her house, her voice, her eyes, and how calm I felt just sitting there talking to someone I didn't even know an hour ago. It had been maybe 5 days since I met Claire. I hadn't texted her. She hadn't messaged me. I wasn't sure if I should reach out. After all, I technically showed up at her house by accident. I didn't want to come off as pushy or weird. It was just one of those odd, nice human moments that happen sometimes, and maybe that was all it was. Then I got a job request through the same booking site I usually use, routine outlet repair at a commercial property, standard form. Standard instructions. I didn't even notice the address until I pulled up to the building. It was an older brick office complex on the east side, classy but quiet. I parked, grabbed my bag, and buzzed the suite number listed on the order. The door opened, and there she was, Claire. She blinked for half a second, then tilted her head and smiled amused. You again? I couldn't help but laugh. Seriously, this wasn't on purpose, I swear. Relax, she said, stepping aside so I could walk in. If you had done this on purpose, I'd probably respect you more. Her workspace looked just like I imagined it would: open shelves with color swatches, portfolios, stacked neatly clean, desk coffee brewing in the corner. She explained the outlet by her desk hadn't been working properly, and it was driving her crazy because it kept shorting her laptop charger. I got to work, unscrewed the panel, ran a test loose wiring easy fix. Took me about 20 minutes. We didn't talk much while I worked. She typed on her laptop, took a call on her Bluetooth headset, sipped coffee. I like that. Some people hover. Claire didn't. She trusted me to do my job and let the silence be comfortable. When I finished, I stood up and wiped my hands. Should be good now. I tightened the leads and replaced the faceplate. Shouldn't give you any more trouble. She unplugged and plugged her charger in, again solid blue light. You're efficient and surprisingly quiet for a man with a toolbox. Comes with experience. She closed her laptop and leaned back slightly. Want some coffee? Real stuff. Not office sludge. I hesitated, then nodded. Sure, if you're offering. She poured 2 mugs, handed me one, then sat on the edge of her desk. I stayed standing. I didn't know what this was: friendly, flirty, professional. I just knew I didn't want to ruin it by reading into things. We talked again, this time not about routers or outlets, about her work. Turns out she was leading a redesign for a small boutique hotel in Cleveland. She showed me some of her design boards: clean, modern, natural textures. She had vision. It made sense. Her house felt like a portfolio piece. I told her that. Your place felt like someone actually lives there, but also like a magazine shoot. She gave a small smile. That's exactly what I want my clients to feel like: their life belongs in the best version of itself. There was something about the way she said that: calm, assured, not proud, just sort of who she was. I told her a little more about me, how I used to work for a big telecom company until the pandemic hit and they downsized half their field tech team. That's when I started freelancing. It was rough at first, but I liked the freedom. I wasn't getting rich, but I liked solving real problems, seeing things work again because of me. She listened, not nodding out of politeness, but actually listening. You don't seem like most guys your age, she said. I shrugged. Maybe I just hang around broken things too much. Makes you more patient. There was a brief silence. She glanced at her watch and said, I have another meeting in 10, but thank you for coming and for not pretending you didn't recognize me. I smiled. Kinda hard to forget the woman who roasted me at the door. She smirked. You handled it well. As I turned to leave, she said, Nick? I stopped. She walked over to her desk, picked up a small sticky note, wrote something, handed it to me. Her number. In case you ever need help designing your own space, or if you show up at the wrong house again. I took the note and smiled. I'll try to get the address right next time. We both laughed. It wasn't flirty, it wasn't romantic, but it was something. Later that evening, my phone buzzed. Today was nice. You've got good energy. Stay strange, Nick. I didn't know what to say. I stared at that message longer than I should have. I didn't reply right away, but I smiled. A couple of weeks passed after I fixed the outlet in Claire's office. During that time, we started texting, not constantly, not in the way people who are trying to prove something do, just occasionally, natural. Sometimes it was her sending a photo of a weird lamp she saw at a client's house. Sometimes it was me complaining about a customer who wanted me to fix their internet but didn't actually own a modem. There wasn't a label on whatever was happening between us. We weren't dating, but we weren't strangers anymore either. One Saturday morning, I was in a hardware store grabbing some connectors when Claire texted, I'm grabbing coffee near you. Want to join, or are you knee-deep in wires again? I replied without thinking too much. I could be unwired in 10. She sent a thumbs-up emoji in the name of the cafe. It was one of those local spots: reclaimed wood, too many succulents on the windowsill, coffee so strong it could bench press you. She was already sitting at a small table outside when I got there, sunglasses on, legs crossed, iced coffee in hand. She looked calm, effortless. We talked for an hour. Then she asked if I wanted to help her pick out tile samples for a project she was working on. I said sure. That turned into walking through a design warehouse for another 2 hours. After that, we ended up getting lunch at a taco truck and eating on a park bench. Nothing about it felt planned, it just flowed. That day was the first time I noticed how much I liked being around her. I wasn't trying to impress her. She didn't try to play it cool or be mysterious. She was just present, and the weird thing was, I felt more like myself around her than I had around people my own age. After that, things started happening more regularly. She invited me to a gallery exhibit one evening. I didn't understand half the modern art, but she walked me through it like it was second nature. Another time, she asked me to help her assemble a flat-pack bookshelf, and we ended up watching some old Paul Newman movie afterward while eating Chinese takeout. She never crossed a line, never hinted, never pushed, but the energy between us, it was real, and I think we both knew it. One Thursday night, I was over at her place again. She made dinner, nothing fancy, just salmon and roasted vegetables. We were sitting on the back patio afterward. The sky had that deep blue color just before it goes completely black. There were citronella candles, lit jazz, playing low through a speaker somewhere. She looked at me and said, "You're not what I expected." I asked, "Expected how?" She took a sip of wine and shrugged. "Guys your age, they either talk too much or try too hard. You don't do either. You're just here." I smiled. "Is that a good thing?" She looked at me without speaking, and then without warning, she reached over and took my hand. Just held it. Nothing dramatic, no speech, no build-up, just her hand in mine. I don't know what came over me, but I leaned forward slightly and I kissed her. Soft, brief. It didn't feel strange. If anything, it felt overdue. But right after, she pulled back just enough to speak, still holding my hand. "Nick, I'm 47. Her tone wasn't panicked. It wasn't warning. It was a fact, a reminder. I nodded. "I know." She looked at me again, deeper this time. There was something in her eyes, not fear, not hesitation, just caution, like she had lived enough to know that feelings weren't always enough. "I don't play games," she said. "I'm not trying to play." "Then don't try to be something you are not. Don't do this because it's interesting or new." "I'm not," I said. "I'm doing it because I want to." That silenced her for a bit. She looked down, let out a slow breath, and then said, "I need you to think before anything else happens. Think about what this is about, what you want, because I don't chase and I don't pretend." I didn't argue. I just nodded. I drove home that night in complete silence. No music, no podcasts, just the sound of tires on the road and my own thoughts going in circles. It wasn't about the age. It was about her, how sure she was of herself, how sure she needed me to be too. And I wasn't sure I was. I didn't text her the next day or the day after that. It wasn't intentional at first. I just needed space, or at least that's what I told myself. The truth was, I felt small next to her, not because she made me feel that way, she never did, but because I kept comparing who I was to who I thought I was supposed to be if I stood next to someone like her. Claire had lived more. She'd been married, divorced, built a business from scratch, traveled, failed, recovered. She owned her house, paid her taxes early, knew the difference between real leather and synthetic, just by touch. And here I was 30, still renting, still taking last-minute jobs to cover surprise, car repairs, still unsure of whether I was building something or just staying afloat. A few people I mentioned her to friends, acquaintances gave me that look. You know the one? The raised eyebrow followed by a pause that always ends in some version of, "Wait, she's how old?" or worse, "So is this like a phase?" And I started thinking maybe they were right. Maybe it was weird. Maybe we were kidding ourselves. The third day of silence, she didn't message either. That's when it hit me, she wasn't going to chase. She'd said that clearly. She'd given me space, but not as a tactic, just because that's who she was, self-contained, confident, independent. The fourth day, I couldn't take it anymore. I drove to her house without telling her, and it was a Thursday evening just after 7. The sky was cloudy, like it might rain, but hadn't decided yet. I parked in front of her place and sat in the car for almost 10 minutes before finally getting out. She opened the door after the second knock. She wasn't surprised to see me, just looked at me calm as ever. "Hey," she said. "Hey," I replied. There was a beat of silence. She stepped aside to let me in. The house smelled faintly of lemon and rosemary. Something was simmering on the stove. I noticed she was barefoot, wearing soft black pants and a white tee, no makeup, hair tied back loosely. We sat in the living room, no wine this time, no music, just her and me and everything I hadn't said yet. I took a deep breath. I don't think we're going to work. Her expression didn't change. She just waited. I continued, we're from two different places, not just age, life experience. You're settled. I'm still figuring things out. Still. She said nothing. I kept going. People wouldn't get it. My friends already don't. I'm not even sure I get it. It's like we're on completely different timelines, and I keep thinking maybe this is just something temporary. Maybe I'm fooling myself where you are. I don't know, but I don't see how this turns into something real. Claire looked down for a second as if collecting her thoughts, then looked up at me. Her voice was steady, not defensive, not hurt. You're not wrong. That surprised me. We are in different places, she continued. I've had a marriage, I've had the drama, the chaos, the heartbreak. I've built my life the way I wanted it, and I don't need to be rescued or completed. She leaned forward slightly. But when we sat in my kitchen that first night, when we talked in that office, when you looked at me and kissed me on the patio, I wasn't thinking about timelines. I was just there with you because it felt good. Then she leaned back and said, you say we'll never work. We haven't even tried. I felt something drop in my chest because she wasn't angry, she wasn't arguing, she was just saying the truth, flat, honest, clear. She wasn't asking for a promise or a label or even a future. She was asking, how can you say it won't work if we haven't even started? And I didn't have a good answer. I stood up. My hands felt useless at my sides. I'm sorry, I said quietly. She nodded once, no judgment in her eyes. I hope you figure it out. I walked to the door, hesitated, turned back, but she'd already stood and walked into the kitchen. I stepped outside. The clouds had finally decided. It started to rain. I sat in the car, soaked in silence, windshield streaking with water, wondering how the hell I got so close to something that felt real and still let fear do the talking. I didn't hear from Claire after that night. She hadn't blocked me. Her number was still saved. Our old messages still sat in my phone untouched. But I knew her well enough by then to understand she wasn't going to reach out first. And honestly, I couldn't blame her. For the next week or so, I kept telling myself I did the right thing, that being realistic was mature, that facing facts was better than pretending something could work when it clearly wasn't meant to. And yet every time I tried to distract myself, whether it was working a job, talking with friends, binge watching old TV shows, I caught myself thinking about her, the sound of her laugh, the way she'd run her fingers along the rim of her coffee mug, while thinking how calm she always seemed, and how that calmness made me feel like I could actually be someone worth something. And then there was her voice still echoing in the back of my mind. You say we'll never work. We haven't even tried. It hit harder with each passing day because she was right. I had shut the door before we even stepped through it, not because of anything she did, but because I was scared of what it might mean if I let someone like her actually get close. The truth, I was intimidated by how much she didn't need me. And for someone like me who'd spent so long trying to feel enough, that was terrifying. But at some point, I stopped running from that thought and started asking myself, what if that's exactly the kind of love I need? So 2 weeks after I walked out her door, I got in my truck and drove back. No text, no call. I knew she'd either answer the door or she wouldn't. It was a gray Saturday afternoon. The street was quiet. I parked across from her house and stared at her front door for what felt like forever. Then I walked up and knocked. She opened the door a few seconds later. She was barefoot again in leggings and an old hoodie. Her hair pulled back, no makeup on. Still, somehow, she looked exactly the same to me, strong, certain, beautiful, in the kind of way that doesn't fade with time. She didn't smile, didn't speak, just looked at me, waiting. I cleared my throat. I've thought a lot about what you said. No response, just steady eyes. You were right, we hadn't even tried. And maybe it still won't work. Maybe we'll end up hurting each other or realizing we want different things, or that we're just not built for the same life. I paused, took a breath. But I'd rather try and fail with you then keep wondering what it could have been if I hadn't let fear get in the way. Her expression didn't change, but I saw her breathing shift slightly, just enough to know she heard me. I'm not coming here to fix you, or complete you, or promise something I can't deliver. I added, but I'm here for real if you still want that. She stepped back without a word and opened the door wider. That was her answer. I walked in. We didn't hug right away, no dramatic music, no big speeches. She walked to the kitchen, poured us both water, handed me a glass, and sat on the couch. So I sat next to her and we talked. That night, we talked more openly than ever before about her past marriage, about my fear of never becoming enough, about the age difference, about the world outside and how it might look at us, and how we didn't owe the world anything, not if we were both in it for the right reasons. We didn't kiss that night. We didn't need to. We just sat close, not perfectly, not passionately, just present. And it felt like a beginning. A month later, we started officially dating. No big announcements, no social media, just quiet, intentional time spent building something, not based on infatuation, but on conversation, consistency, and mutual respect. 6 months in, I moved in with her, not because she needed me there, but because she wanted me there. And for once, I wanted something that didn't scare me. It felt real. No rush, no pressure, just two people different on paper, aligned in practice, trying. And some nights when we sit on that same back patio, candles lit, music low, I still remember that night I told her, "We'll never work," and how she answered, "We haven't even tried." She was right. We tried and it worked. The story of Nick and Claire teaches us a vital lesson. Fear can close doors, but courage opens them to possibilities we never imagined. Nick, a freelance electrician, stumbled into Claire's life by mistake, yet their connection grew through honest, unforced moments. When Nick hesitated, intimidated by Claire's confidence and their age difference, he nearly let self-doubt sabotage something real. Claire's challenge, "We haven't even tried," cut through his fears, reminding us that love and connection are not about being enough or matching timelines. They're about showing up authentically and trusting the moment. Claire at 47 didn't need Nick to complete her. She wanted someone who chose to stay present. Nick's decision to return to admit his fears and commit to trying shows that vulnerability isn't weakness. It's the foundation of meaningful relationships. Their story reminds us that life's best moments often come when we stop overthinking and start acting even if we're scared. It's not about having all the answers or fitting a society's expectations. It's about building something real, one honest conversation at a time. So let go of the what ifs and take that chance. You might find a connection that feels like home. Have you ever let fear hold you back from something real? Share your story in the comments. I'd love to hear it. If this story inspired you, hit that subscribe button and join our community for more heartfelt tales of courage and connection. Let's keep exploring what makes life meaningful together.